You are Locked On Syracuse, your daily podcast on the Syracuse Orange. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
So now we're going to talk some defense. And again, just like the offense, the guys from last year who made all conference are gone. Justin Barron, Marlo Wax, Fidel Diggs, Clarence Lewis, all gone. So Neil, same question I had from the offensive side of the ball. On this defense, which is brand new, who do you think is going to be All-ACC in 2025?
Yeah. Well, three guys that when I first started kind of thinking about this morning or yesterday morning, I don't know, what day are we? I joke. Three guys that stood out to me just because they had, solid production from last year. And that was Duce, Chestnut, Devin Grant, and Derek McDonald. The secondary, I've certainly read a lot of stuff, from people that have more expertise than I do about the ACC or on a national level, and they talk about Syracuse's secondary getting a huge makeover just in terms of guys exhausting their eligibility and or transferring out. But those three guys, I mean, McDonald is going to be one of the starting linebackers. And, he was, 1, 2, 3, tied for, I'm looking on ESPN. So hopefully the stats are correct. It looked like McDonald and Grant were tied for total tackles. And I know Grant had a couple of pass blocks and at least one pick. And he's a senior, but I think they're both seniors. I like both of them. Duce, kind of have a love-hate relationship with Duce, not like personally, like just I feel like he's got some serious skills, like on the one hand, but on the other hand, like he drives me a little bit nuts, just in terms of like, I don't know, maybe missed tackles that in a particular game or whatever. I'm not like picking on him, because the whole defense was kind of up and down last year, but I mean, I think he's got skills. So those would be like my three initial guys. I mean, there's certainly, a ton of other guys that either are, returnees and or transfers. It's like hard for me to get actually another guy that I kind of am high on because he started to get some more run later in the year is Devion. I hope I'm pronouncing this right. Davion Kerr. Yeah. Two freshmen. And didn't he have a pick last year too?
He did. He got it in his first career start in the Cal game.
Yeah.
Davion Kerr.
Yeah. And his brother plays on the team too, right? Yeah.
I think so.
Yeah. So, but in terms of like on the line or on the edge, I don't know. Nothing like stands out to me. But again, I'm kind of like biased. I'm just kind of like looking at like last year's production. And again, there's guys that are transfers or guys that are maybe returnees and step into a bigger role that they're not like popping off, for me right now. So those are like the first three I'd mention, but I am obviously very curious your thoughts as well, because I'm sure you've got some gems in there.
Well, the two that initially stick out to me are the same two I think that stick out to you. I think even though Devin Grant and Duce Chestnut were not all conference last year, I think them being a year older and being more experienced and probably having more of a role this year than they had last year. And they had a big role last year.
Yeah.
There was a lot of play. Like they're more leaders, I think, now on the defense, whereas last year they're more secondary type pieces, support players. They're going to be called upon more this upcoming season. I'm leaning towards Devin Grant making All-ACC. I don't think he'll make like first or second team, but a third team or an honorable mention I could definitely see. Yeah. Same thing with Duce Chestnut. I could see him sneaking in there, honorable mention. My sleeper, I think a lot of guys are sleeping on him, David Reese from Cal. It's because he's only got one more year of eligibility and he's going to be an 8th year senior, grad student, whatever, but he's going to be in college forever. Double the amount of time that you and I were there. But you know what? 11 sacks over the past 2 seasons.
Yeah.
With Cal playing in power conferences.
Right. Yeah, no, exactly.
So if David Reese comes here and he's one of our primary edge rushers and he puts up 6 to 7 sacks, I know he hasn't done that yet in college, but 5.5 sacks in 2023, 4.5 in 2024. If he puts up 5.5, 6, maybe even 7 sacks, he's all conference, isn't he? Maybe. So that's why I think people are maybe sleeping on a guy like David Reese. And the other one I'm so fascinated by him is Demetrius Samuel Jr. I mean, he might be the number one corner on the team, and he is a true freshman.
Yeah.
So how good is he going to be right away?
Right. And Fran has said that, he could get, good ample playing time on both sides of the field because he's a wide receiver as well. Correct.
Yes.
So definitely. If you're looking at true freshmen, another guy that I'm kind of curious about, I can't remember. I should probably have looked it up before we started chatting, but I'm intrigued by George Rooks. I don't know if he's going to be, an all-ACC player, but I mean, isn't he a legacy? And he started out Michigan and then was at BC, and I know he was like a 4-star.
He is a legacy. And
so it just kind of was someone that intrigues me. I'm also kind of curious that they got I'm totally blanking on his name. Chris Peel, I think he was a 4-star in high school, and then he was at Georgia. Again, he's a Georgia guy. He's a defensive back. Fran Brown used to be at Georgia, obviously, and DB coach, and so I don't know how much playing time he's going to get, but I remember he was pretty highly rated coming out of high school. Again, that doesn't necessarily mean anything now, but maybe someone, I don't know. I'll be curious to see who the starting second, what the starting secondary is. But I am high on Grant. I'm definitely high on Grant. I think he's gonna have a good year.
Same here. With George Rooks, it's funny you mentioned him. I don't think he's much of, I mean, I'll be pleasantly surprised, but
sure,
I don't think he is much of a candidate to be all conference. And the reason why is because I said this on the podcast when they got him. Like, look, he started at Boston College last year. So you're getting someone who started at a power conference school.
Right.
It's never a bad thing.
No.
But if you look at him on Pro Football Focus, he wasn't exactly that good. Pro Football Focus grade is in the low 50s, and they grade on a scale of 0 to 100. And that's not particularly good. So that's, I guess, a way of saying he's either going to be a rotational defensive lineman, so he won't have a lot of snaps, which you need a lot of snaps, in my opinion, to be all conference.
Yeah, of course.
You got to have the opportunity. And if he gets the opportunity, I'm not sure if he's actually good enough at this stage to be an all conference defensive lineman. Again, I'll be happily wrong. And last year with Syracuse, there were a number of players that I didn't see being all conference going into the year, who then turned into all conference guys.
Yeah,
they were no doubters. I mean, Trevor Pena and Jackson Meeks, all conference.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people were thinking that out of the two Georgia not to digress, but the two Georgia wide receivers that transferred in, Zed Haynes, the younger guy, was, more highly rated and all that. So, and obviously he had other stuff going on and didn't play a ton, and then he retired, but then went into the portal. So anyway, but no, I agree. Yeah, Meeks, I don't want to say he came out of nowhere, but that was definitely a pleasant surprise. Yeah. What do you think about another guy I was thinking about in the secondary? And again, I feel like the secondary, I don't know if it's going to be a weakness, but or just something to monitor, question mark, so to speak, just because they lost so much. But like, what do you think of Buxton? Like, he didn't play a ton. Barry Buxton?
Yes.
Geez, that'd be embarrassing if I got his name wrong. But I don't know. I just don't know if he might see a bigger role this year. I was looking on ESPN again. He had 20 total tackles, which wasn't a ton, but out of there aren't a lot of guys ahead of him that are returning. You know what I'm saying? Like Duce, Derek, and Devin, and then the rest. I'm looking down: Fidel, Marlowe, Lewis, Bellamy, Murad Watson. Boo! So mad that he transferred. But money talks. Yaquez. So I mean, you know what I'm saying in terms of. Ooh, sorry about that. Phone going off here. But it's in terms of again, just returning guy. I don't know. I feel like he made a couple of nice plays last year. It's tough. I mean, I again, for me, it's I definitely would take the easy route and say Grant McDonald. I like Derek McDonald. I think he kind of gets overshadowed the last couple of years by some really good well, obviously Justin Barron moved over from defensive back to linebacker, but then, Mikael Jones, Marlo Wax. So, but I think he's going to be a real leader of this team. And I think I'll have a ton of tackles. Linebackers really can get into it from that standpoint. And so him, Grant, and Duce, and then we'll kind of see. But the offense obviously steered the ship last year. I feel like, is the defense going to have to steer the ship more this year? But is that like asking too much? Do you know? Like, especially given
that's a great question. Who's better offense?
Like given the schedule, and it's tough. It's like the offense is just unproven because, again, you don't have Kyle McCord. The other two guys could be really good, but we just don't know. And then you've got some good pieces at running back and wide receiver. But again, like the main guys from last year, there's just such a huge makeover of the roster. So it's hard to kind of like, forecast. You just don't know what you have.
It's a giant question mark. Going back to your first thing about Barry Buxton, I think he'll be close to, if not, he will be a starter. I'm not going to project him to be all-ACC because he's not a young guy. He's not spring chicken in college football.
He's a senior,
he's a redshirt senior.
Yeah.
To me, I guess when I look at potential all-ACC guys, I look at guys who are close the year before. Right. I look at their age. I look at their pedigree. And when I look at Barry Buxton, I see a guy who I think this is going to be his first real opportunity to have significant playing time because he played a good bit last year, but I think he could get more this upcoming season. But he's a redshirt senior. So I gotta see it to believe it. It can be done where guys can kind of be late bloomers. Again, last year, we're citing it with Jackson Meeks and Trevor Pena as guys who all of a sudden became all conference players. But it's similar to George Rooks with Barry Buxton. I cannot project them to be all conference. I guess we can do our final prediction now for the defense as far as all conference players. I will go with Devin Grant, Duce Chestnut, and David Reese. So I'm going to say 3 guys on the defense will be all conference in 2025. What about you?
Okay. Yeah. I like Reese. That's good. But you had him and I didn't, so I can't just like,
No, you can say the same
name. I can't cherry pick off you. I think, well, I mean, it's like I hadn't even I had seen him but I just like the light bulb didn't go off. I mean, I do like I do think Grant's gonna have a good year. I think Duce again has talent. He's a little Jekyll and Hyde with me, but I think he could at least get an honorable mention, if not, make one of the teams. I like McDonald. I think McDonald's going to be. I think. Do you think he could be like the? Well, they don't have one captain on defense, but I assume he'll be a captain. He'll be one of the leaders of the defense. So I like McDonald. I'll go with McDonald, Derek McDonald.